Happy Wednesday everyone, hope you're well. Been a few weeks since I did my last walk and talk. I'm back over Tunbridge Wells, a beautiful Tunbridge Wells common. Weather, actually I think it's been raining, it has been raining a little bit. It looked like it could rain and I thought I'll get out now just in case it rains in a little while. But it does look like it could rain any second, so the good news is this video is not going to be too long. Hope everyone's been well, hope everyone is working hard. Now, what I'm going to talk about this week, actually the questions that have been asked of me over a period of time. I'm just looking which way to walk. Let's go down this way. And I've also seen a lot of posts on these subjects pop up time and time again. I've often thought about jumping on and replying, but I just didn't want to get involved in a long post where people keep coming back to you and the conversation goes on and on and on. But I thought, you know what, today let's put to bed some of these questions or myths or whatever you want to call them. So I'm just looking around. This is I'm trying to go a new way to what I normally do. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is salaries. You know, I've seen so many posts on this. That should a salary be seen on a job role? Absolutely yes. For me, there's no excuse whatsoever for there not to be a salary. I mean, how the hell can you apply for a role if you have no idea what they're paying you? You know, at Jefferson Group, absolutely every single role that we put out has a salary on. It's so important to do that. I don't understand why people don't do that or why agencies decide not to do it. And it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you know, if you're a junior, midweight, senior, and you're applying for a role, now of course sometimes you see a role and you can guess a little bit by reading it, going, okay, this is more of a senior role than junior. But how many times have you, and me, I've done it before, wasted applying for a role and having no idea what the salary is? It doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't they give you that salary? They must know the sort of person and ideally the seniority of that role. I mean, even if they didn't give a range, and I'll get onto that in a minute, but there's no excuse why a role doesn't have a salary on. It just wastes your time. I've even known people have an interview, you know, apply, get an interview, and still not be told the salary. And you think, why? They must know, there must be a budget. So, you know, for me, if I didn't see a salary on it, I wouldn't apply for it. Or if I did, first question I'd want to know is how much. And if they come back and say, oh, I don't know, question it again. Why don't you know? There should never be a role without a salary on. I did see a post a little while back. Some recruiter said, oh, you don't need a salary. And I just couldn't be bothered to respond to that. Doesn't make sense to me at all. Now, sometimes what you'll see also is a salary range. And I get that. So at least there's some money up, that there's a salary there, so you've got an idea. And sometimes the reason there'll be a salary range, and it could even be a 20 grand difference, is because that agency, I'm walking up a hill, excuse the heavy breathing, just may not be sure how senior they want to go. Okay, they might be thinking, we probably think it's a senior, but guess what? If we come across a midweight, maybe who's looking to step up, or we feel he can do that, we may go for that as well. So sometimes you'll see a salary range. It seems a bit, you know, 20 grand. Think, oh, between 50 and 70 or whatever. But there's a reason, and I understand that. And it's just sometimes that an agency might be thinking, we're not 100% sure. Let's meet a few people, and it might be we meet someone phenomenal that's not at the top of the range, but we believe that they can do the job, or we can help them grow into the job or whatever. So a salary range, fine, no problem with that. But a job without a salary doesn't make sense to me. They shouldn't be doing it. It's just wasting your time. And for me, they know exactly the money they've got, and they should be sharing that. So that's the first thing. For me, my attitude on this is, yes, you've got to have a salary on your role, and you'll never see a job from Jefferson Group without a salary on. Right, that's the first one on salaries. Again, just my opinion. People may not agree. Now the other one is, okay, this is split into two really. I'm going to talk about when people advertise roles. And I've had a few people ask me this. And they say, well, why does a job stay up so long? You know, sometimes there's a couple of months you might see it. You know, is there something sinister going on? Are they lying? Is it fake? Well, the answer is to that. I mean, it could be. But for us, and I'll go on my experience now, because I've had this a couple of times. The first one is really, really simple, is we haven't managed to find the right person. Sometimes when you put a role up, whether you put a job ad up or you've gone searching, sometimes you get really lucky. And so people come in and you go, yes, that's exactly the person you think are right for the role. And it can happen really quickly. In fact, I just had a role this week. You know, the process was really, really quick. We've got this brilliant creative director, a brilliant agency, you know, proper creative. He knows what he's looking for, knows creativity. Luckily, I know what he's looking for. And the process was really, really quick. Saw him, first of all, liked the work. Interviewed him, really liked him. Got one of his designers to interview him, really liked him. Come with an offer. That's rare, by the way. One, in terms of process, because it can take long. But second, we got someone really quickly. But also, sometimes getting that right person for a certain role can take a while. So it's up because of that. It might be I've not found anyone. It might be they've sent people across and the agency are saying no. So of course you leave it up there for a while. So that's the first thing. It is genuine. It just means they haven't got someone as quick as they wanted to. Also, you know, you might find someone for the role and then they go through possibly a long process. And obviously you keep the role up there because you know that it may, at the end of it, that person may not want it, or it might go wrong on a final interview. So you'll keep the role up there. And I've had this before, you know, someone to get through right to the final stage, and that process might be a long one, unfortunately. Could be weeks, a month. You know, some of you would have gone through long processes. And at the end of it, it could be that the candidate says, no, it's not for me. Or it could be the agency saying, no, you're not right for them. So therefore, and if I will do that, and once that happens, the role's still up and I'll continue looking. So again, it's genuine. It does stay up for genuine reasons. I'm not saying other agencies maybe keep it up for their reasons, but that's, from my experience, my point of view, they're the two main reasons that you'll see it up for a long time. It's not fake from us. It's just that sometimes you don't get the right person for a while, and even when you think you have, the long process, it goes wrong at the end and you then start again, and that's why we keep it up there. Now the other question I had from someone, excuse, I've got my notes out because, as you know, I can't remember everything, and they basically said, you know, yeah, I've seen the same job on LinkedIn for ages, might be a month or so, then it disappears and it comes back again a month or two later, you know, and again they're saying to me, is that fake? Is it just someone, you know, what's the reasons for that? Someone pretending to be busy? Is there a reason? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons again, and I'll talk just from my experience of why that's happened. It might be that it's up for a month, and in that time, a month or 5 or 6 weeks, you put someone forward and they get hired, and you think, great, okay? So they've got hired, you take the job down. You think, great, success, great news. But not all of them are successful stories, as we know. It might be that within that 3 month period, or 2 months or whatever, the candidate might feel that the place actually isn't what they think it is, or sometimes what happens, a job offer coming elsewhere and they'll suddenly, because it's more money, they'll go. So a couple of months down the line, it might be that the candidate decides to leave that agency for whatever reason, and we're starting to look again. And of course it could be that that agency have decided, wow, that person hasn't turned out like we thought they would, right? And it might be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, they decide, no, it's not for us, we'll let them go. Often happens in probation period. And if that happens, we're back on the market again. So one of the reasons you'll see the same job come back on a couple months later is because of that. Candidate either decided the agency wasn't for them, or the agency decided the candidate wasn't for them. Genuine reasons. Oh yeah, okay. And the other reason is, and I've had this happen to me a few times, and do you know what? We know it's still tough out there. We know clients aren't spending money, agencies aren't spending money because their brands aren't spending money. So often what happens is you'll have a roll up, you'll be looking for people, and then it's put on hold. And the reason it could be put on hold is that agency might just lose a bit of business, and therefore that money that was assigned for that role, whether it was a designer, a writer, art director, creative director, they have to stop, put it on pause. They haven't got the money that was meant to be there with that client. The client literally pulls. Maybe they lose the client. It's a lot of money gone. Therefore, that role disappears with it. That's one reason. The other reason is that client that agency that thought the client was going to spend an X amount of money, again due to whatever reasons, they decide no, they can't spend that money this year. So they say to the agency, we don't have that money. The agency then go, well, we can't then afford to hire that person. So another reason it happens is because simply the client has pulled the budget and no longer has it, and therefore the job goes on pause. Okay? Now, what also happens is, a couple of months down the line, it might be that client that pulled the budget has now got that budget for whatever reason and says to the agency, right, okay, here's that money. The agency then go, right, we need that person. So the role comes back in. It could be exactly the same role. I'm going to go, okay, we'll go around here. So when you see that same role disappear and come back, it simply could be because the budgets are slashed and then they're back on, and it's the same role. And sometimes you'll see that role tweak and change slightly because the money might come back and it might be less money that they wanted, but it's some money. So for example, you might see a role that went from a senior designer to midweight designer simply because even though the budget's come back, there's less of a budget. But again, it's genuine. It happens. And right now, the last year or two, we know it's tough out there for everyone. So there's a lot of budget cutting. There's a lot of roles that are slashed because of that. But it's genuine. But that's it really, guys. I just wanted to cover salaries. Yes, absolutely, there should be a salary. And if there's not, I think you should hound the recruiter or the agency and find out what it is. Don't waste your time doing it. They know what it is. They have a budget. Like I say, sometimes they may not be sure. There might be a range, which is fine. They may go, we're not sure if it's midweight or senior. We'd have, fine, that's fine. At least you've got an idea. But to apply for a role with no salary doesn't make sense to me. And I've even heard stories where even after the first interview, they still won't give the salary. So it's your choice, but I would say hound them and say, tell me what that salary is. There's no excuse. And then the second one is, just because a job stays up for long, is it fake? Is there something wrong? Not necessarily. As I said, sometimes it goes on for a while because we just haven't found them. Or maybe someone took the job and then it didn't work out quite as it should. And then again, the other one was the job reappears a couple of months later. Is it sinister? Is it real? Well, I can just tell you from these experiences, it can absolutely be real, simply because they may lose a client and therefore the role disappears. Or it might be that the client just cuts the budget and they haven't got that budget to get that person at that time, and then a couple of months later it's back on because the budget's back in. It's as simple as that. So I can't talk for everyone, and I'm sure there will be some fake ones out there. But talking from my experience and experience of Jefferson Group, by the answers, they are real. They're real reasons. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it helps a little bit. It does look like it's gonna pee down, so maybe I've timed this right. Like I said, have a good week, and I'll catch up with you in a few weeks' time. Speak soon. Bye.